is recording us.
And
The
everybody's
iPhone?
phones off? Both.
Both
Live.
are?
We're live.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. If you're live, welcome to another continuing adventure of Tech Tuesdays, a joint effort with South Florida Tech Hub and Owwll. Thank you for joining. If you're live, excuse me, if you're watching the replay, thank you for that. I'm your lovely host, one of your hosts for today, Jeffry Ullman. I'm the Director of Partner and Membership at South Florida Tech Hub. So again, thanks and welcome for joining. A quick few.
Let's be honest, Jeff. You're the guy, right?
I'm
If you want to get involved with South Florida Tech Hub, you call this guy on Owwll and collaborate with him.
There you go.
Because he knows the ins and outs of all these big events going down here in South Florida. So call Jeff on the Owwll App 101. Huge opportunity right here.
Thank you. Since you mentioned it, just for everyone, my office hours on the Owwll App are 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern every day. So I'll be available. If you don't have the Owwll App, thank you for reminding me, Jason. If you don't have the Owwll App, you can download it now. If you use the referral code of Hoot, all caps, no spaces, you'll get a $10 trial. You'll need the Owwll App if you want to call in today.
They could use Tech Hub as well. They get $10 free. Either referral code.
Okay, I'd forgotten
That's your guys' referral code. That
Okay.
Hoot's my referral code.
All right,
You guys
don't
get the
use
credit.
Hoot. Sorry about
Use
that.
yours, of course.
How did I get this job?
I don't
think
know.
I've
One day
forgotten
we said, let's
everything
start
already.
a podcast together, and look at us now. We're like 5 episodes deep, and we're running smooth. A lot of people are inquiring about doing a show in our studio now because they see what's going on with this collaboration.
Thank you.
It's pretty awesome news.
So yeah, how did I get this job? But that's another separate episode.
Different podcast, different day. We have Scott here today. We can't do that all 1 hour.
Right. So couple of quick things. South Florida Tech Hub. For those of you in the Treasure Coast, Jensen Beach area, we actually have a free networking event tomorrow night. Thank you, C3 Complete, for being the sponsor. Any questions on that, reach out to me. It's also on the Eventbrite page. Be there and have some fun. Coming up also this week, we've got a jam-packed week. This Thursday, we have a dev dive for you developer and programmers. It's going to be at Tech Strong here in Boca Raton. It's also free. As a nonprofit, we have a lot of no-charge events. Thank you to Tech Strong and Dexian for being sponsors of that. Again, for you programmer, DevOps type, we have a hackathon coming up September 20th. It's going to be at the City Furniture Headquarters. Here's a chance for you to get inside the city headquarter furnitures, which you're not often able to do. It is sponsored by City Furniture, FPL, and Office Depot. Thank you for that. The big news is we're actually going to be awarding $5,000. So not only can you have some fun, do some good, but you can win some real money. And the biggest event that we've ever done and will do is Techpalooza 2024, coming up at the December 11th at the Broward Convention Center. I'm happy to say, and we'll talk more about this, Scott will be exhibiting there. So the prototype that he's going to be referring to, you'll should be able to see it live and in action there.
You bet.
So enough for me right now. Jason, why don't you do a quick intro, and then we'll let Scott do an intro, and then we'll get
Before
started.
I give an intro,
Okay.
You said something pretty important there.
Okay.
That you guys are having the biggest Techpalooza in your history.
Correct.
Right? And you all need some speakers, right? And
That is
everywhere
true.
I go, people knock on my door and say, Jason, I know you know a lot of people. I'm really getting into speaking engagements more frequently, but like, how do I get up on stage? Right? They see my social media. They see me up on stage a lot. I'm like, it's all about who you know. Right. And then I'm sitting here, I'm like, here's Jeffry Ullman. He is, in charge of a lot of things at Tech Hub, and you could just reach out to him, and maybe he doesn't make the decision, but he knows the person that makes that decision to get you on stage at Techpalooza. So everybody listening out there, if you want to be part of the biggest Techpalooza in its history, just call Jeffry Ullman on the Owwll App 101. He goes live 5 to 6 o'clock almost every single day for $1. And you get $10 when you download Owwll. So it's obviously a no-brainer to get in touch with Jeffry. So real quick, who am I? I am the founder of the Owwll App. So if you want to talk to me, of course, I even list it on my profile. I charge $99 typically. And pretty much if you put a deposit in of $99, call me, I will refund you your $99 back. Because to me, it's just about
good to know.
creating collaboration on the platform. And we have a huge update coming out. So of course, if you haven't tried Owwll, give it a shot, because we're about to break history, right? We're unlocking 6,000 profiles that people cannot see right now on the Owwll app. In the past, you had to upgrade to become an expert to take calls. Now, all those people that couldn't take calls all of a sudden can take calls. We used to charge a premium $10 fee in order to do that. So it's a big deal for the Owwll community. It's going to happen once the App Store approves us. And who am I a little bit more? I am also the host of the Shrimp Tank podcast that is partnered with FAU, their Adams Center for Entrepreneurship. So I had the opportunity to interview over 300 entrepreneurs, finding out the do's and don'ts of running a business like Scott to my right. So Scott, let's get into your background. Tell us a little bit about who you are and also a little bit about, what collaboration means to you. Why don't we go there as well?
Absolutely. So I am the founder and CEO of Wisp Energy,
Okay.
and we have revolutionized wind energy. And we have gotten involved with Tech Hub. It's been a great support for us. In fact, Jeffrey, you've probably emailed me 10 times as much as I've emailed you. So you've been on me to make sure I'm doing what I need to do. I am a experienced keynote speaker. I've been in Dubai and in Morocco doing keynote speeches on green energy. So I live what I do as my business. The Wisp Energy company has a couple of patents on a revolutionary new wind turbine design. And by the way, we just recently did a pivot. It was we thought logical to do a land-based wind turbine, but we've done a pivot just in the last couple of months to oceanic energy. And we think we've got a phenomenal solution there that will change the industry.
So how did you two meet? How did this all come about?
Well, I'm going to tell that story, and thanks for reminding me. We haven't talked about this. So every year, Tech Hub participates in IT Expo, which is a big trade show. It's also at the Broward Convention Center every year. And we have a pitch competition every year. And in addition to a pitch competition where we have a set of judges that select the winner, we have a crowd favorite. And oftentimes, as you would expect, the judges don't agree with the crowd favorite. This last year, it was the first time that the judges picked Scott and Wisp Energy as the winner. As the winner?
The winner.
As the winner.
That's a new one.
As the winner, and the crowd favorite was also Wisp Energy and Scott. So I initially had met Scott through IT Expo, and through that became a member of Tech Hub, and the journey began. And by the way, thank you for the comments. I'm assuming the emails have been helpful.
Oh, they've been really helpful.
He's good at that. I got to give him a lot of credit.
He does.
That's why this partnership is working. A lot of
says,
people.
Why didn't you respond? And then he bugs me until I do. But it's always valuable, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And yeah, we were pretty proud to. That was a historic win for us on that pitch competition. We got lots of feedback from it, and it got us the honor of working with Tech Hub, which has been a game changer for us.
So talk about that collaboration for a moment, because often we see, entrepreneurs create startups, and of course, 90% of them fail. And the ones that succeed, I do see a trend. Lots of times they're building rich relationships behind the scenes that people cannot see, and they form valuable collaborations that often people cannot see. So you just mentioned that it's been a great bond between you and Tech Hub, and of course, other organizations as well, like a rising tide raises all boats. It's okay to talk about other ones.
No pun intended.
Tech Tuesday, but I think it's important for our audience to know it's like that is the backbone probably of where you guys have kind of pivoted to today and helped you get there.
Absolutely. I wouldn't be here with you today if
Absolutely.
It wasn't for Tech Hub. It has helped us with resources. They've introduced us to industry players, to engineers, to funding sources. We're raising money for our pre-seed fund right now. So they've helped us in all aspects of our business, from execution to marketing to finding the right resources, connecting us with the right people. And I think we've even got a lunch coming up with another entrepreneur that has a energy-based concept that may have some synergy with what we're doing. So we've gotten a lot out of Tech Hub.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah,
and I got to give Jeffrey credit because he is really good at communicating on email and calling, which, some people say is old school, right? Because
I am
today,
old.
Everyone's just texting and emailing and waiting. He just
breakfast.
kind of like gets things going. He just kind of shows up, he calls you, says, let's go grab a bite. Right.
Yeah.
And all things on his email signature. It's always like, if you'd like to schedule a meeting, click here. Right. And he's the backbone of Tech Tuesdays here, in the studio, because if it wasn't for his communication style, right? Like many podcasts, they would have faded. It just wouldn't have worked. We would have got frustrated here at Owwll HQ and would have been like, hey, this is an opportunity that was lost, right? It would have easily, because I'm like Jeffrey, right? I have systems in place, and as those systems start failing, as I start working with other entrepreneurs, I honestly throw in the towel because I'm like, we're not on the same wavelength, right? After a while, it's like we run a very clean studio here, as you could see from the entry point of coming in, but also the email sequences.
Yeah.
But Jeffrey kind of took the email sequences immediately, so everything that you received kind of is a great collaboration for those reasons, of course.
Yeah, and they're all valuable. And speaking of old school, taking me
You're
to
pretty old too, Scott. I can say
Hey,
that.
this is not my first rodeo, my friend. Taking me to breakfast and introducing me to people there that you knew. I think there's a better connection with somebody face to face.
Absolutely.
Certainly with video calls and podcasts and that sort of thing. That's a great way to get good information and connect with people. But nothing's better than that face to face, sitting down with you, sharing a cup of coffee. And I know we've got a lunch coming up soon. That's a great example of your style, which I appreciate.
So thank you for that. Let's
open up the lines.
Okay.
Before we get into the next topic, everybody listening out there, Jeffrey is live. Just put him up on the big 86-inch television. And all you got to do to get into this show and ask any of us questions is call Jeffrey right now for $1. It's first come, first serve, right? There's not many shows out there that I'm aware of that have this type of opportunity that you call in and get your profile listed up at the top of this 86-inch TV. And then we'll also send you the content, right? With technology out there, we have the ability to capture your phone call with crystal clear audio during this episode. And then you could repurpose it, right? Content is king today, of course.
So thank you again, Jason. I forgot to mention, thank you for watching, if you are watching live or the replay. But if you want to call in live, you should call me. It's Jeffry Ullman, Ullman. Call me live today, and you can ask Scott, Jason, or myself a question. But back to Scott for a minute. We kind of alluded to this. You're an early level, early stage startup. So where are you at in your journey today? And what are some of your near-term things that you're working on and would like to see completed?
Yeah, and I guess early is relevant, right, to a relative to where.
Well, let me rephrase that. Assuming we have time, we're going to get back. I happen to know Scott's life story. It's pretty amazing. We'll come back to that.
Well, thank you. I'll be glad to talk about that. So about a year and a half ago, I created the invention and filed the patents for our revolutionary wind turbine. We applied for National Science Foundation, SBIR. We got involved, and we're honored to be involved with the FAU Tech Runway. So we are a member of that incubator program, and that helped us quite a bit. That got us connected with being a presenter at the IT Expo, and got me eventually linked up with you. We are currently finalizing the next generation of patents. We are building a subscale prototype. It's going to be about 10 feet across, so it'll be a significant piece of work, but it'll show a working prototype of what we're doing. And that has been funded by the founding team to date. So we've invested about $500,000 in technology and development and patents and process and IT and getting everything set up and ready, incorporating and getting our banking put in place. So all of that is in place at this time. And in the next couple of weeks, we'll have a finished scaled prototype that will demonstrate exactly what our technology can do.
That's very helpful in explaining. You are, as a startup, in addition to funding your prototype, you are looking for general VC investment. You're interested rather in VC investment as well, correct?
Correct.
It's good to know for all you VCs out there, which, by the way, we do have several members that are in that area as well.
Yeah, and we're pretty early stage in capital raising. I would call this more seed investment. We're right now looking for the resources to do that computational dynamic analysis that proves out that we can get a significant improvement in the cost of energy and reduce the cost of generating electricity through wind.
So we hope to have and plan to have Scott and Wisp Energy at Techpalooza you'll be able to see the live prototype in action.
And me live in action.
And by the way, just for clarity, you're not a bot. You are a live human
Yes,
being.
I'm a real human.
Oh,
being.
we have our first caller of the day. Brian Strubar, welcome to Tech Tuesdays,
Hey,
powered
welcome.
by South Florida Tech Hub. You're probably watching us live and you have a question for Scott, myself, or Jeffrey, I bet. What's going on, Brian?
Well, I'm doing well. And I was just going to ask them what they see as the new and up and coming tech that's going to take the place of or be as important, I would say, in the, I don't know if you want to call it the evolution or the expansion of tech, kind of like AI is. What do they see as new tech that's coming out?
New tech in terms, Brian, in terms of green energy or in general?
Like just in general, you know how AI has kind of swept the tech sphere, if you want to call it that, in the last year and a half, 2 years with like ChatGPT and all the other AI stuff. What do you see as some other revolutionary new technology, so to speak, that's coming? Just like metaverse and a lot of the metaverse type stuff. Even cryptocurrency has changed a lot of things. So what do you see similar to that can make a major sweep in the tech world?
Good question, Brian. Certainly, to me, AI is in its infancy, and I'm almost embarrassed sometimes. The things that I can generate using AI, physics calculations, engineering solutions, presentation content. So it's changed the way I've done business, and I use it every day. I'm an avid user of AI.
So let's take a pause right there, because you're running a business and I find like everyone says they're using it, but they don't really understand how people are using it. So can you define how you use it on a regular basis? So I think that's a very important question.
Yeah. Well, first off, for research, it's been pretty useful. And as everybody knows, it's all about how you prompt the system. But I'll give you some examples. We have to calculate, for example, the amount of energy that a certain design will have as an output. And in the past, I would have to spend many, many hours and days programming that calculation. And now with human language, we can ask it to calculate that type of feedback for us. Pitch decks and information about our company, business plans, we're generating those through it. I can put a financial structure in place and have it output a pro forma. I use it for posts and content and for information. And as I said, it's at its infancy, but I'm learning how to prompt it and how to use it and cross-reference it with other sources. Because you gotta make sure that you validate what you get from it.
Yeah.
But if you do that and you cross-reference it, you can get some spectacular. It's mostly a time saver, right? I don't have to have an engineer crunch numbers for a couple of days when AI can put that out pretty quickly.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. I think AI is changing the face of business, and it's really putting a lot of quote small business out of business because a lot of little, let's just say even photographers and things like that. Now you can get an AI generated photograph or edit your photograph with AI in a matter of moments instead of paying a photographer or someone to do all that editing for you.
Yeah, Brian, and my wife was in the dental industry. I just saw a presentation that they've actually done dental procedures using AI now, where it scans the teeth, analyzes diagnoses, and actually then does the procedure. So I think it's going to change our world in profound ways and replace. I shouldn't say replace. I look at it like, hey, you didn't try to keep people working as ditch diggers when heavy equipment came out, right?
Of course.
It frees people up.
Look at AOL.
Yeah,
right?
you want to go to a next
letters.
level.
You don't have to mail letters as often.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Somehow, we still have to mail letters certain places like the government. And then I just was on a phone call today and it's taking 4 weeks to process. I'm like, really? Like you guys figured out where, and then you're not allowed to email them though. So it's crazy how certain things still stay the same, of course.
Yeah, that's true.
So Brian, what is your day job? What do you do?
Well, I do a number of things. I own a local construction company, but I also
I think Brian got an incoming call. That's what that silence
Oh,
is.
is that?
Yeah, he'll be back. Give him a minute.
Well, while we pause, you just said something, Scott, I hadn't really thought about. using Chat GPT for purely, let's say, scientific calculations. Have you found it to be accurate?
I have. Again,
Interesting.
it's user input that affects that validity. But in cross-referencing that with the good old-fashioned calculation, it's been pretty good. And I've learned to take the system and ask it for actual references, so that I'm validating that information within the program itself.
Yeah.
And I've tried ChatGPT and a couple
Right.
of others. To me, for what I do, ChatGPT has been the best performer.
I could be wrong, but I don't think many people think of Chat GPT in that kind of use case. So it's interesting that that's a different use case.
Yeah,
That does seem to be working for you.
it's amazing. I've had it write a poem that I was presenting for my father's 80th birthday, for example. And in a matter of seconds, it output in the style I wanted a 10-minute poem that I could read at his birthday party. I thought that was pretty cool.
Did we get
We,
him back?
we lost Brian.
Okay.
Brian's
but,
gone.
but Brian is our power user on the platform, so I'm
He'll be
sure
back.
if Brian lost contact with us, maybe he was driving somewhere. I'm sure if he gets signal, he'll call right back in. But he might not, because he might say, okay, I called in to Tech Tuesdays. He wants to give someone else another shot. Right. And what we can do today, because I'm sitting in the chair, is make some outbound calls, have some fun. Right. All these individuals are available on the Owwll app right now as we speak. So we call them and really have some fun. So we got someone like Steve Edwards, for example, was part of FE Tech Runway. He does a lot with Tech Hub. We could give him a ring. Now, let's see if he picks up.
This is
fun.
cool. I didn't know you could do that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, your app's amazing.
People say they're available. Now, they don't always pick up. So we're eventually going to build a function to hold people more accountable.
Is this like call a friend?
Oh, yeah. Hello, Stephen Edwards.
Hello, Jeff. How are you?
Stephen, you are live on Tech Tuesdays powered by South Florida Tech Hub. This is Jason Hill. Are you okay being recorded?
I am.
We had a feeling. So you have Scott and Jeffrey. I'm not sure. Are you watching live by chance? Are you watching any of this?
I was, but I just got off a Zoom call just because I saw you guys calling. Right? I don't want to miss a call from you guys here on Owwll.
Yeah, usually we only take calls, but being that I'm one of the hosts today, I'm like, let's jump in and let's make some outbound calls. And I saw you available. And Scott, right now you're part of Tech Runaway, correct?
I am.
So Stephen was a past, individual part of that incubator as well. And I thought you two, you guys know each other or no?
I don't think so. Have we met, Stephen?
I don't think so.
What year were you in the incubator?
What year was that? 2021?
Okay, we just finished a few months ago. We're still involved with it, but our term, I think we were number 12 or 13 in their group.
Okay, nice. Are you going to be at the Maverick reception?
I am not. That's tonight,
Okay.
right?
No, it's in November.
Oh, yeah, I'll be there.
Okay.
Yeah, so we can meet there.
Absolutely. They have rumor on the street is this is their 10-year anniversary, and they're going to pull some of their companies that have been through Owwll, or I'm sorry, that have been through Tech Runway that have exited to be a panel. So a lot of people that come to there can actually say, here's the success of some of these organizations.
Hey, Steven, if you're on earbuds, can you pull them out? We're
I'm not on earbuds.
No, you're on regular speaker. Okay, we're having a little trouble hearing you.
It's because I'm in the house and I don't get great signal in here.
There we go. It's not us. See that, guys? It's not us. It's Steve's home. It's got to get better cell signal over there or Wi-Fi. But that's pretty awesome. So there's going to be a panel of people who have exited.
Correct.
And you will be one of those panelists.
We'll see. We'll see if I get asked.
Well, Steven, and Scott, I asked each other some questions over here. You guys have both been through this incubator.
We haven't met. What are you currently doing day job wise? Has your company come to fruition and you're doing that full time?
Yeah. So I actually exited last year. So I built my company. Thank you. We got acquired a year ago.
Nice.
In August, a year ago. They kept me on as president of the company. So I still run that. It was a virtual platform doing virtual hiring events. Now we are with the company. Company acquired me. It's called Career.io. Has a phenomenal AI-based platform for candidate, so I am helping launch their enterprise division to go out to organizations to use the software.
So if someone wants more information, you may have just alluded to it. What is the actual URL of the website they should go to?
Career.io. Or
Career.
if they're looking to career.io.
Okay. And
So-
you're on the Owwll app as well, and LinkedIn.
I am on the Owwll app, LinkedIn. They can see me. They can actually go to my other website, Weeding Through the BS, where my book is at. I just wrote a book, Scott, about my whole acquisition. It's called Weeding Through the BS, from idea to acquisition. Talks about how I came up with the idea, how I built my team, the challenges of building and developing software, and not being scared to fire your developers when they're not doing their job, and switching. And, I switched multiple times on developers, even though I was scared to, and it ended up costing me less money by switching developers because
Right.
I wasn't too far down the path.
And firing your
really-
mentors. Don't forget about that one too. Right. Just because
yeah.
you get assigned some people at all these different incubators doesn't make them the right fit. Right. People don't speak about that.
Jason, absolutely. That's one of my favorite things, right? It talks about my mentor group. I went through multiple mentor groups from 1909, Tech Runway, the VMT, Veterans Florida, which to me was amazing, with Dr. Kevin Cox over there at FAU. I had some really good mentors, but I also had some really bad mentors, and now I'm one of those people that I'm kind of loved and hated by my mentor groups, because one, there was a little bit of a success that happened after there, but I'm also very outspoken about bad mentors and tell people, fire your mentor, right? There's a lot of mentors that are out there, and a lot of people that are going through these programs, they're scared to fire their mentors. And I actually just spoke with one of my mentoring groups the other day, and I said, hey, there's a challenge that this is happening, and they knew it, because people confide in me a little bit more, because I'm a no nonsense, no bullshit type of guy. I'm going to say it how it is. So people will come up and confide in me and say, man, my mentor's stuck. And I'm like, fire your mentor. And they're like, well, we can't, we're worried about that. And I'm like, no, that mentor is there to help you. And so many people get scared to say that, because if two mentors are there, and they don't know if they're friends, and they don't know if I say something bad about this one because they're not helping me, are they going to go to the other one? Is there going to be?
Okay, so we got to let Scott jump in on this one. Scott, what comes to mind with everything that Steven's talking about?
I feel lucky because I had a killer team of mentors, and they were on it. And I got the other side of the story, Stephen, is they felt like firing their mentees, because some of them, what one of my mentors kept saying is, why do I keep hearing the dog ate my homework? And that's why I didn't deliver. So my team was pretty experienced. They held me accountable and made me a better CEO and a better founder. So unfortunate for you, but that's part of the role of a CEO and a founder. You got to know when to cut loose. I've let loose a couple of my key people that weren't a good fit for the organization. I didn't have the misfortune of having to fire my mentors like you did. But as you know, you gotta step up as the leader and make good decisions. And sometimes that's changing your team, or in our case, pivoting to a new target market.
I think Steven just enjoys firing folks, right? You could get a sense. It's like reading through the BS. He's like, fire my developers, fire this person, fire my mentors.
Because listen, it's your business, right? And I don't care if it's a mentor, a team member, a developer. If they stop bringing value to your team, why are they there, right? And I can say, I remember the first person I ever fired, and it was almost 20 years ago. And it was the worst thing I ever had in my life, when she started bawling in front of me. Like, I didn't handle it well, right? I was a different person back then. So right now I would handle it a lot different, but I still remember that. And I always say, I never fired anybody after that. I would sit down with them and find out, right? If they're not bringing value to the team, they're not productive, they're not helping, they don't want to be around, they don't want to be there, right? And I had a guy that I used to work with used to say, if you're chasing two rabbits, you're not going to catch any one of them. And I always kind of took that to heart. To say,
Ooh, I
you know,
like that
sit down with-
quote. I like
Yeah.
that one.
if you sit down and you're like, you just talk to them and you can find out, you can know they're not happy. You know, maybe it's the schedule. Maybe it's hey, they just don't like what they're doing. You know, I have an employee that works for me today, and you know, I praise this guy so much. And I was on a call with him this morning with one of our new clients. He runs my client success team. He's kind of the face of the company. And I said, you know, it was very hard for me to give up all the making the training videos and doing everything because I wanted to give it to Glenn, and I was the face of the company. It was there, but I gave it up because he was better at certain things than I was. Right, running training's a little bit slower there, and you have to know. It doesn't matter if you're firing or moving people. I love to move people and take somebody and say, "Hey, man, you give me a positive attitude, a great work ethic, I can find a position."
Well, and Stephen, you sound like a thoughtful CEO. If you fire appropriately or make changes appropriately, you're actually doing them a favor, right?
Correct.
If you make a good decision, it's usually a good decision for their life as well. If they don't fit your organization, they're probably not happy and they're probably not fulfilled. So you're actually doing them a favor by giving them a chance to fit. And if they don't, letting them move on to something else.
100%. I had a guy call me yesterday and gave me his 2-week notice. And you know what I said to him? Congratulations, you got the job you wanted.
Oh,
if
good
you
for
need a
you.
letter of recommendation for anything else. And I had a call with him about a month ago. He came to me, he wanted more responsibility. And he got this job. He's like, man, I came to you after I interviewed for that because I didn't think I was getting it. And it's a dream job for me. It's a state level job, right? Because he's wants a little bit more, we'll call it security, state retirement, stuff like that. And I said, man, I'm happy for you.
Yeah, and you
And I'm
didn't,
really
didn't burn,
excited to
and you
see-
didn't burn the bridge, and neither did he.
You know, you know,
Steven, thank you for joining us. That's it. We got 3 seconds left. We'll call you some other
Oh, okay.
time.
Nice to meet you,
Bye.
my
Later.
friend.
thank you.
So that's Scott. That's the best part of Owwll right there.
Yeah, that's cool.
10-minute clock. You're the one paying to chat with them in this situation. And guess what? You don't have to extend it. You
I'm not
could
on
if
a
you
10
want.
I'm not on a 10-minute clock. Am I?
You are not. Just when we make outbound calls, like they
Right.
can't. People can't talk forever, right?
Yeah,
10-minute
that's for
increments.
sure.
Of course you can if you'd like, but this is who we just spoke to, so everybody sees.
He gave
out
us
there who's watching.
valuable information. That was
Very
that was
valuable.
really good.
So he had some lessons he learned, right? He
Yeah.
started his company from scratch, you know, and he had to make a lot of pivots growing it. And, you know, he had the ups and downs when you build a company like his that scales so quickly, you know, during the COVID times, right? Like a lot of clients came in, right? And then a lot of competitors came in, right? He was going up against the largest brands you could imagine in the career space. Right.
Well,
So-
and growing a business, it takes different skills for startup than it takes to grow, that it takes in maturity.
Yeah.
So a good CEO like Steven says, hey, this is what I'm good at. This is where I add value. I'm a startup and a launch person. Let somebody else take it from there.
absolutely.
And I think that fits me more too.
I don't think we discussed this, but Stephen alluded to this. So I'm sure people are going to want to follow up after the webcast today. Scott, what's the best way for someone to follow up with you? Are you going to have office hours on Owwll? Do you want to use LinkedIn? What's your preference?
Well, I'm learning a lot about Owwll, so I'd like to have office hours on Owwll. I think probably 11 a.m. to noon would
Okay,
work for me.
Eastern.
Eastern time. Also, my email is scott.jewett@wispenergy.com, and that's scott.jewett@wisp, and that's WISP is in terms of
And that's your website, WISP.com, Wisp Energy.
Wisp Energy.
Right. And they're on LinkedIn as well.
Yes.
Looks like we have a caller. Manny, welcome to Tech Tuesdays, powered by Southfire Tech Hub. How's everything going today?
Everything's going great. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, how cool is this? We have Oz Digital Consulting on the other end of this, and they are the builders of the Owwll app. And this is Manny's
I did not know that.
first time calling in, and they, of course, are a Tech Hub member as well.
And a very active Tech Hub member. Thank you to Oz, longtime Tech Hub member. So thank you for that.
Figured you knew him because it
Absolutely.
says Emmanuel and you called him Manny.
There you go.
Good Tech Hub.
That's right.
And
I go
I'll
by
show you-
Manny, and
I'll show you his
Manuel is
profile.
cool.
Hi,
Well,
Manny.
How are you?
I'm doing great.
Great to be here.
Okay, Manny, you got questions for Jeffrey, myself, Scott? What's on your mind today?
I just like to get an understanding from the panel as far as how you see Owwll and its usage, and are there anything that we could do better for the users
Oh,
of Owwll?
Great question. Scott's so new to this, so I don't know if
That's not my
he'd be best
subject.
to answer this, but let's have Jeffrey answer this on the spot because Jeffrey's kind of new to Owwll, right? Last 90 days, he's gotten involved and he's fielded a decent amount of incoming calls and he's made a decent amount of outbound calls. And of course, we're live every Tuesday and he does office hours every day. So Jeffrey, why don't you go ahead and answer?
Wow. So I would say overall, the app's very intuitive, very easy to use. Jason and I's talked about this. There are a few particular areas that could use some improvement, like any app. But in talking with Jason, everything I brought up, he said it's going to be fixed in the next release. So that's a good app. Developers, you take feedback. You're not perfect. There are always things that can be improved. And I think everything that I brought up that I can think of are going to be fixed in the next release, which is tomorrow.
24, 48, 72 hours, whenever the App Store decides to approve us. But we have shipped it to them and we are just waiting for them to say it's good to go.
So one thing I really do like, and I was talking to Scott, I'm not an ad hoc kind of person. I like to plan my day. I like to know what's going on. So I generally don't take calls live because it's just not my personality. I really like the office hours. I can set aside an hour a day, generally try to make myself available. I'm mentally up and ready if anybody wants to call me. So I really do like the office hours concept.
Well, I must be special because you always answer for me.
You are special, Scott.
I feel special.
So does that help?
Yeah, that helps a great deal. And I'm a big fan of the office hours as well. I remember when Jason and I were discussing that feature a while ago, and I am using it every day as well because I like to plan and make myself available at a time that's suitable for me. So certainly happy to hear that feedback.
Well, I'm going to go a different direction, Jeffrey, because he asked it. Tell our audience about things you didn't see coming, right? Some of the things, like a lot of people have an impression of Owwll and immediately make a judgment, right? And that judgment forces them not to use it. Or they think, oh, well, I'll use it this way. And then all of a sudden you start using it. And what I've seen is people kind of have that aha moment, right? Or I call it a clickable moment, right? All of a sudden like, oh, wow, I could use it for this, this, and this. Because until you go down that journey where you take and make calls, right? Things, you just can't see it. It's like that first time getting an Uber, right? So share with our audience some of the things you didn't expect.
Well, I'll tell you when my aha moment was.
Sure.
Best use case. And now when I say it, it's going to be obvious, but it never occurred to me until Jason and I were talking about it. And it's, this is especially true in South Florida.
Yeah.
Until we get a better public transit system, we're going to be in our cars a lot. And Jason mentioned the use case. He's driving from Coral Springs to Miami. Given the way 95 is, that's at least an hour. If you're lucky, maybe 2-hour drive. So he goes live. He's sitting in the car. He's not listening to a podcast. He can make his time productive. So I thought that was a great use case, especially in South Florida. When you're driving half hour, an hour, go live, take calls. You're going to be there anyway. So I really thought that was a great use case and did not occur to me till I heard Jason, explain that. So that would be an example.
So Jeffrey, I'm new to Owwll, and my experience with new applications and new systems is to find one or two things that are most valuable for me to learn and do on it. And then I start finding all the connections with it. It does this, I didn't know that. And if you're just starting out like I am, what should I first try to use it for and get accustomed to and then grow from there?
Well, kudos to Jason. He's got a lot of great Owwll ambassadors and they track new members.
So new categories, new category.
I noticed as soon as I went,
stalk me or what?
Yeah, well, they will.
They
will in a good way, not a bad. So I did notice
people could take that as a bad way, right? They're like, people keep calling you. And I was like, oh, my bad. People keep calling you.
Well,
that's such a bad thing. They want to pay.
I'm sorry, it's effective.
Sorry, it's effective, right?
So
it's crazy the world we live in, right?
That happened. I went live, and a lot of the ambassadors called me. Hello, welcome to Owwll. You got any questions? So you'll find that Jason has built a good community. A lot of great Owwll ambassadors out there. So I would just I would set up office hours. To me, that's important. And then go live, and you will start getting calls, especially from the ambassadors.
Well, and now that I committed to office hours,
You-
does that mean I need to sit at my desk and log
No.
on and be there? How does
No.
that work?
you-
Oh, that's a great
it's
question.
it's a great question. Since it's a mobile app, you can be anywhere and take the calls.
Got it.
So
Your phone's on sleep mode. It rings in the background.
Oh,
So
nice.
this is not like other social media where you're literally on it the entire hour. All it means is that it's if you set office hours every Tuesday from 5 to 6 p.m., right? And you know you're always on your couch watching TV at that hour, it automatically makes you available to take calls. And then your phone rings when it's on sleep mode. So very simple. Your phone's ringing like a real phone call.
Yeah.
And then you see someone like Manny calling you. You're like, oh, Manny, he called during, Tech Tuesday's podcast. I know who's calling me. And if it's not me, someone random, they're obviously taking your time serious if they're willing to pay, even if that minimum of $1 is listed on your profile. Like, if someone's putting $1 in, they've read your profile, they're taking you serious. And the best part about Owwll is it's an in-app secure phone call, so it protects your cell phone number.
Well, I agree with
what
what you
We're
said.
not giving out your info.
I agree with what you said too. Is people don't value what they don't pay for.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
And so if it's important information, there should be some value to it.
Yeah.
Even if you
I
refund
think-
it or do something to give back. Right.
Yeah. And
One of
so
the
that
I
just
learned,
blossom opportunities, really, because often people go in saying, oh, I just don't really need to call Manny. But if you just call Manny and then you just start talking about AI solutions or technology, or, he's in the Tampa area, he does a lot with incubators there. You just never know what's going to come from a quick 10-minute, 20-minute conversation. That's how I see this thing.
Okay. My next
And
learning
just-
step is I'm going to call Manny.
Manny,
there you go.
get ready.
There you
It's
go. I
coming
think
for
one
you.
of the things that I've learned through not only developing the application but using it is that you have to make those calls. You got to get yourself proactively calling people and meeting people, not just expecting to receive
Oh,
calls.
good advice.
Because it is through that effort that the networking takes place. And I've met some people that way that I probably wouldn't have. And another thing that's incredibly great about Owwll as a community is that I'm calling people and talking to people that I typically would in real life.
Yeah.
And that has been incredibly valuable to learn from other folks, what they do, what they're invested in, what they're working on, where in my day-to-day business, I probably wouldn't.
Yeah.
So you never know where this next, deal will come from, or the next subject matter expertise comes from. So get on the phone, get on Owwll and make a call. It'll pay off.
Well said. Drop the mic.
I've got my next step.
All right. So it's been great. Thank you guys. I certainly
thank you,
appreciate
Manny.
Thank you for
All
joining
right.
in, Manny. Take care.
No problem. Thank you. Take care.
Yeah, he
So-
brings
so-
up a great point. It's just making outbound calls, right? Too often.
Yeah,
This goes the
it's a
same
valid
for
point.
business in general. It's like people wait around on social media waiting for incoming messages to create opportunities. Like, no, go after your ideal customer. Get into the DMs on LinkedIn or Instagram, comment on people's posts that you're interested in, and then ask for the meeting. Right. And with Owwll, it's like if people are sitting there at $1 to $5, like, what are you waiting for? Just make an outbound call, even on this show. Right. I get antsy. I'm like, I see Steve Edwards there for $1, right? Someone who's, had an exit, right? There's so much knowledge in that man's brain that you could call for $1. It seems like
Right.
a no-brainer to me.
So two things. Scott and I were talking about this before the show. So part of Tech Hub as a nonprofit is empowering startups. And Scott's a very generous person. So I asked Scott earlier today, would you make yourself, if another founder needed some advice or wanted to talk to you, would you be willing to mentor? We were talking about a good mentor. I think Scott would be a great mentor. So you're available for that as well. Correct?
Absolutely. And I'm a long-term consultant for business. I'm a licensing expert, an IP expert. I've been a keynote speaker for companies like ExxonMobil on innovation. So I'm certainly want to give back. And
That's
if
great.
people need some guidance, absolutely available for that.
So I wanted to switch gears. I happen to have talked to Scott, and Wisp Energy is not his first, let's say, business venture. Really kind of an interesting life story and some of the things that you've done as a backstory. So why don't you talk about maybe the Pentagon related story and
Oh,
provide that.
I'd be glad to. And I got to tell you, that was my most proud business moment right after 9/11. We all remember where we were when the terrorists attacked. A week later, the Department of Defense called me and said, the Pentagon building has been damaged. We don't know what we can do to repair it and prevent this from happening again. And so I was called to go and tour the building, and ended up patenting a solution to harden the building, won the contract to protect the entire building, and got to be part of that grand unveiling 12 months later of the Pentagon and making it safe. So it's, that's where innovation really makes you feel good, right? I did something that was important, and to be there when they were still digging out, gives me goosebumps today. So I did a lot of work with the federal government for protecting our nation against terrorist attacks with my technology, and then answered a technology call. Turned out to be BP Oil, trying to prevent the recurrence of that oil leak that we had, the Macondo accident.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
So I ended up, I was one of 1,200 companies and labs that applied to submit a solution, and we were the sole one selected to design a way to prevent oil well failures in the future. Won the contract, developed it all the way through to full scale units, and worked with manufacturers and licensed the technology to BP Oil. And that's when I started to think, there's a need here to get away from oil and gas and coal. And that's what transitioned us into the green energy field. And what our goal is to end the reliance on fossil fuels, to actually give us clean energy at a cost.
I'm going to play your video so everyone can watch it real quick.
Here it is. This shows our this is really an animation of the new design for visualization purposes. But what we've done is we've been able to come up with a way to make it very cost effective in oceanic settings. Traditionally, wind turbines have to be bigger and taller to get more energy out of them. So if you can imagine that big round propeller blade in most wind turbines, we've squished that down and brought it closer to the surface.
Wow, this looks incredible.
Yeah, it's a profound innovation. The Department of Energy and the groups that have seen it are very excited about it, and it's thinking outside of the traditional way to improve the efficiency of wind turbines, where those institutionalized thinking engineers, all they want to do is make them bigger and more expensive. We want to make them smaller, and it's kind of modeled after a America's Cup racing yacht.
Oh, I'm a sailor.
Yeah, well,
I know a tad about wind, and now it's crazy what they're building with hydroplaning.
That's the most efficient wind energy machine ever created. We've basically put the America's Cup racing yacht design on the grid.
So where are you in this process of building this, right? Is this like you're waiting for funding, right? Are you in the process of building? You already have funding? Where are you?
We're building a 10-foot scale model of what you see here.
Okay.
This is an animation visualization of it. So it's the detail engineering that's going into this prototype that we will be showing off at your event coming up.
Techpalooza, December 11th. Be there or miss Scott.
I will be there with my wind turbine in tow.
That's awesome.
But you know what? We can now go into deeper waters because we're not putting a foundation. This is a floating system.
Right.
And if you think about a wind turbine, making it taller and taller and trying to float it, now you got to have these huge bases. They're $12-13 million just to make a floating foundation for these. This will be a fraction of the cost.
So how much money do you have to raise, right, to really, I guess, get your first one out there? Like, what are we talking? So our audience understands.
Yeah. So there's a couple of phases, as you know, from raising money. Right now, we're looking for the capital to have a third party do that computational dynamic analysis and say this is the outcome of the design, to get a then full scale prototype in the ocean, floating and producing electricity. It's about $11 million cost. That's not the cost of a unit. That's the cost to do all the engineering design, and you're now fabricating something that's not available today. So it's a little more expensive.
So where do you go, right? Like a lot of entrepreneurs, right, fail on they go after everybody trying to raise capital. So do you have a game plan on who to reach out to? Obviously, you've done this in your past, right? But I think it's important for everyone listening to kind of say, okay, take your advice on how to have a effective strategy to go after the right investors, right? Because often people spin their wheels.
Yeah. Well, to be humble, we're
Yeah.
learning this, right? What we've heard from many of the VCs is, hey, a little too early, right? You're not generating revenue yet. You haven't got a prototype that's producing. So I think this is a seed level, but we're also talking and working with the Department of Energy to get them to do this computational analysis so that it proves out the efficacy of the system. And by the way, the industry is not going to make a change for a 5 or 10% improvement. We've got to have a 30+% reduction in the cost of energy through wind to really make this have a profound impact on our future. And
what I love what you said is we're learning, right? You didn't bullshit your answer, right? So often people sit on podcast shows and they just act like gurus, right? They've had past brands, they've had exits, but often like when it comes to like raising this substantial amount of capital, right? Lots of times, like, no one's really done it. Like, no, there's very, like, even myself, I'm in the financial services, I'm a financial advisor, right? And then I'm now a tech entrepreneur creating Owwll, right? But because I have a background in finance, does not mean that like I have a background on angel investing, venture capital, right? It's unknown to me as well. And then you kind of get going and you start realizing like, wait a second, like most people have only done it, if they've ever even gotten to the table to get an offer, it's like they've only done it once, right? There has been very few people that rinse repeat, right? That have been able to do it multiple times. We only live for so long, right? So you think about it, it's like how many people are creating companies and raising capital, exiting, and then doing it again, right? Often it's 1 or 2 times.
Well, and I've raised capital in the past, but I haven't gotten a check yet for this venture.
Yeah.
So it's hard to be cocky when you haven't done it, right?
Of course.
I also think it's a matter of meeting the right people, right? You're introducing me to folks out there, getting exposure like this great podcast today.
Yeah.
And getting involved with Techpalooza and some of the other events where people can see what we're doing. And as you hear probably over and over again, you're going to have hundreds of people see what you're doing to find that one entity, one NGO, one person, one investor, one government agency that says, okay, we see the value here and we want to invest.
Yeah. And my thing is always find your ideal VC firm or angel investor by looking just at public data of what they've invested in already. Because often you're spread too thin, right? You're emailing everybody, you're going to conferences, and it's the wrong people at these conferences, right? And you really have to find like who cares about this stuff, right? Have they really written checks to this type of stuff? And then maybe instead of going after 10,000 people, you focus on 50. Right. And those 50 go right to their LinkedIn profile, and you just start commenting, liking for a while, and then eventually message them.
Yeah,
say, hey, maybe it's a good time that we jump on a conversation, right? We're just starting to consider, taking on investor. Like, keep it soft, right? Or hey, I'd like your opinion on this. You don't even ask about capital,
right?
They get asked for capital every single day, right? They're getting asked so much once they write the word investor. I'm starting to see that they just have auto responses. You think they don't know about AI, right? They don't have responses. Okay, this will be our last caller of the day. Oop, looks like we have 2 callers calling in at once. We might have a bug here. It's not Manny calling in. I can tell you that much. It was Rebecca.
Did Manny call in twice?
No, I think before I was having connection
so
issues.
While we wait, I've spent a lot of time on the wisp.com website.
WispEnergy.com.
I'm sorry, WispEnergy.com. I said the wrong URL before. WispEnergy.com. And when you think of wind energy, you think of turbines. I was reading how relatively inefficient the existing wind turbines are, shockingly inefficient compared to your system. Talk a little about that. The existing wind turbines.
Well, the best performing wind turbines might be 23, 24% efficient, which means 75+% of the energy is not being converted into electricity. And as you were talking about the America's Cup racing yachts, those are up to 85% efficient. So you got to ask yourself, why is a wind turbine that's had hundreds of years of evolution not at that level? So we use that as that motivation to say, how do we take the power that's generated by a America's Cup racing vessel, how do we put that in the sky, put it on the grid, and generate energy with something? And by the way, when was the last time you ever saw a sailboat kill a bird? So, and we have the ability to have sails that fold up so they can be delivered on site, where these big wind turbines are having trouble just getting the blades out there and disposing of them. Afterwards.
So
Absolutely.
I'm not very good at math, but correct me if I'm wrong. Your system should, at a minimum, be at least 4 to 5 times more efficient than the existing wind turbines. Am I about right?
We're expecting an over 30% reduction in the levelized cost of energy. That's the measure that they use out there to say, how good is this green energy machine that's created? We're working with UC Irvine, the University of California, Irvine, their engineering department. They're estimating a 32% increased or reduced cost of energy using our system.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, we're wrapping up the hour. I think we may get one caller because I have a feeling she's going to call back. So we'll give her about a minute or two to give a call because she is watching live. And there she is. This will be our last call of the day. Okay, it is connecting. Hey, Rebecca. Welcome to Tech Tuesdays, powered by South Florida Tech Hub. How's everything going this afternoon?
Well, good afternoon. Well, I'm on the West Coast.
Good morning.
I am.
That is correct. You're in Nevada.
Good morning. Good morning, darling. Good morning. So, what is the gentleman? Hi, Jeffrey. Good morning again.
Hello.
What is the gentleman's name that is with the energy?
That's me, Scott Jewett. Hi, Rebecca. Do you go by
hi.
Rebecca?
Yes, I do. Well, Becky, Rebecca, Becca, doesn't matter.
Is Becky if you're a good friend?
But, when I was younger, it was Becky. So before 2014, I was Becky. But when I published my first book, now I've been Rebecca ever since.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate it. But I had a question. And so Nikola Tesla, I do remember, just from people that I listen to on YouTube, Billy Carson. Are you familiar with Billy Carson?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Anyways, this has something to do with energy and free energy. And so I know I was listening to Nikola Tesla had free energy, but people were down on it because the coal industry, the gas, the oil industry doesn't want people to have free energy. How is that a challenge for you?
Well, according to physics, there's no such thing as free energy. There's a conversion of energy to another form, which is what a wind turbine does, right? It takes the kinetic energy of that wind, turns it into a rotational force, which turns a generator. So unless somebody can break the laws that we know today of physics, there is no free energy. Nikola Tesla was working on ways to transmit energy wirelessly, which so far hasn't been proven to be efficient. You lose too much in the process. But hopefully someday we'll be able to drive our EV and have it charge without plugging it in. That we will get there. It's just not ready yet.
Okay, I was really curious about that. Thank you.
Rebecca, I'm going to interpret your question sort of. I think you're kind of asking, since this is a disruptive technology, how is the traditional energy producers viewing you as a competition, replacing their business? Was that sort of your question as well?
You know what? That was my question, so eloquently stated. Thank you for that. Yes, please.
That's why he's the host. That's why he's the host.
That's right. Well, that's a fantastic question.
I know. That's why I want to hear Scott's answer.
Thank you, Rebecca. I'm not going to give
I'm
Jeffrey
glad I
credit
asked
for that.
it. I'm glad I asked it. Okay.
Yeah, we're never going to build wind turbines. We're not a manufacturing company, and our strategy is what we did with BP Oil and with the Department of Energy and the Department of Defense in the past, which is to partner with a big producer, a GE Wind, a Vestas, and license our technology to them as our way of not competing with the industry, but collaborating with them.
Okay.
Which I'm glad you brought that up because I meant to ask a question. To me, that is such an important distinction. my words, Scott's smart enough to know he doesn't want to go in the wind turbine building business. He wants to be able to license his technology, work with the existing companies to not disrupt, but to collaborate and improve. And I think that's.
But I think where I hear Rebecca coming from is like the situations where the BPs of the world really just want to buy your brand and shut it down, right? Don't introduce, things that are less expensive, right? And we see this, on TV all the time with other industries, like in obviously medicine, right? Like everyone's always like, well, do they really want to drive the cost down of that pill from $100 to 50 cents?
But you know what?
So I think that's where she's really
my
coming
experience with ExxonMobil, Shell, BP, it was more aligned with what I'm doing. That they are sincere about being in the energy business, not necessarily being in the petroleum business,
Right.
and that they see that transition is imminent and that they need to get on board with it. So I don't see them as much fearful or preventing innovation. In fact, BP Oil went to open innovation and said, hey, even if you're not part of our company, we want a solution here. So I'm hoping that one of the big players will say, hey, this is the right partner for them to go forward and develop something. And by the way, those engineers that they have, I worked with PhDs in the geology and the production of oil, but they were humble enough to say, hey, that's something we haven't thought of before.
Yeah.
And it's that same old institutionalized thinking that stops these step improvements in innovation, right? And if all you're doing is making a wind turbine bigger and bigger to make it more efficient and more cost effective, you end up hitting the wall where you can't distribute these blades because they're too big and you can't dispose of things. It takes an outside thinker to come in and say, hey, what about a different way of doing this?
Rebecca, interesting,
Yes,
correct?
interesting.
That's really an interesting question, Rebecca. Very interesting.
Okay, and then I have another question. This is not my field at all. So I have another question. Is the solar panels that they're putting on the homes now, is that technology outdated?
I don't know if it's outdated. They're continuing to look for ways to make solar panels more efficient. Those also kind of have a limit with their current technology. There's a concept called perovskite, which is a chemical, a material that they're making panels out of, but they don't have longevity. They burn out. So solar panels, I think, are part of the future. And by the way, they work beautifully with wind, right? Because oftentimes as the sun's setting, the wind picks up. So we don't see ourselves competing with solar. We see ourselves, again, as a complementary technology. And you can have the same wind turbines in the same fields as you have solar panels, which you'll see more and more of. And one of our goals here is we got to get Florida into the wind energy industry because we really don't have an established wind production here in the state. And part of that's deep waters, which Wisp Energy can now solve.
And we're almost completely surrounded by the ocean. So I would think we're an ideal
You
state.
think so?
I think I'm not that great at geography either.
And we have a little bit of wind.
Yes.
Once in a while.
I'm sorry, Rebecca, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say to Scott, and welcome to the Owwll app.
Thank you, Rebecca. I'm looking forward to using it more and more, and hopefully we can connect on it.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, well, thank you for joining us, Rebecca, on Tech
You're
Tuesdays, powered by
You're
Sapphire
welcome.
Tech Hub. Talk to you a little
Hey,
later.
stay out of trouble, all of you.
Thank you, Rebecca. And
Okay,
congratulations on your book.
Okay, that
We didn't get a chance to ask her what her book's about.
oh,
I was kind of
I
curious.
have it in my office.
Oh, you do?
I
Oh,
sure
wanna
do.
see. Okay.
I don't know if we want to wrap. I have another question. She made me think of, with the Wisp Energy turbine, you're generating energy. Do you transmit the energy directly to the grid? Does it go to an intermediary set of batteries? How does it work once you've started to generate electricity?
We'll use the existing infrastructure, and there's
Okay.
already a system for running the power from the wind turbines at sea in the ocean to the land,
Directly to the grid.
and then to the grid.
Okay. don't need the intermediary battery step or anything like that.
Well, all green energy needs some type of storage. And right now, batteries are the most cost effective and the most efficient. So most of the green energy systems out there have battery packs for backup. There's other choices, but that's in most circumstances the best. If you've got a mountainous region, you can pump water up to the top and then let it flow back down to save energy and regenerate it when you need it. We don't have any mountains here in Florida. I think
Well,
the high point.
No,
in
that's
Florida
not
is
true. We have Mount Trashmore. I don't know if you've heard about that.
I have,
Okay. You know when you're next to Mount Trashmore.
which is venting for methane gas.
Yes, exactly.
Take us home, Jeffrey.
First of all, thank you, Scott. Very interesting.
Pleasure.
I know I could go another hour, but I don't think I'm that interesting. So thank you for joining.
My
today.
pleasure. Didn't you want my quote? I thought you wanted a special quote.
What we're going to do. Well, go ahead.
Well, you could say it on air.
ahead.
Go for it.
All right. Never live the same day twice.
Okay. Sounds like we got to do something fun
I want a
today.
tattoo like that.
Well, what?
We could give you one. We could do this.
Will it have
As
an
long as-
owl on it?
As long as you let us put an owl on you, we'll pay for it.
Say
You
that
pay for
again?
it?
Never live the same
Never
day.
live the
same day twice.
So
Okay,
you're
I
telling
like
me
that.
you're going to put an owl tattoo on yourself today. You don't want to do something different. Come on, Scott.
Well, you said if you don't pay for it, you don't appreciate it. So maybe we had to talk about the fee for my tattoo.
We'll finance 95% of that tattoo fee, and you finance the 5%.
You raised me enough capital
then
to
you
launch
put that-
Wisp Energy. You got it.
Well, we could try. We could call people. If anyone's out there, why not? Well, we should start funding Fridays.
There you
Call
go.
angel investors, VCs, right through the Owwll app.
I like it.
Pitch your idea, right?
I
So
like
you're
it.
out there. You want your own show. Funding Fridays. It's
I like it.
available.
Sponsor my tattoo, and maybe we'll
I like
go
it.
there.
We're in. We're
Um,
in. We're in.
So thank you, Scott.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me today.
No, you're a great guest. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, everything as
Thanks,
always.
Thanks for
Always.
including me, Jason.
Steph in the background. Thank you,
Our
Steph.
producer. Okay, that is out. We'll be back next Tuesday, right around 11 o'clock. Take
Thank
care,
you very
everybody.
much. Thanks for watching live, and if you're watching on the replay, thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Call them on Owwll.